Cats, the movie adaptation of the famous stage musical, was released at the end of 2019 to less than stellar reactions. It became so reviled by critics that some went as far as to call it the worst movie of the entire year, and as someone who decided to watch it out of morbid curiosity, I'll admit that's a pretty well-deserved accolade. Now, the movie is bad. Really bad. But it's interestingly bad. It's a rare type of movie that failed spectacularly, but it wasn't just a lazy, churned-out cash grab. Cats is a terrible movie that thought it was going to be a beloved hit, comparable to things like The Greatest Showman. So, what went wrong? How did an adaptation of a successful musical with such a brilliant cast turn into such a train wreck? Your immediate answer will probably be, well, the nightmarish visuals. And in all honesty, that's pretty much spot on. While the movie has many flaws, the visuals, in my opinion, were the fatal flaw. The flaw that ensured it reached the point of no return in terms of bad quality. The stage musical of Cats has often been praised for its psychedelic visuals and impressive costumes. In fact, many consider that one of the key reasons to watch it. I think this is partially because the plot of Cats is, admittedly, kind of weird and quite thin. And the movie is no different. The basic plot is that a group of cats, calling themselves the Jellicle Cats, are getting together for their annual ball, in which their leader will award the best performer with the chance of a second life. Now, that sounds odd, sure, but really the narrative is mostly dedicated to the songs. The songs are essentially the poems of T.S. Eliot put to music, with most of them being all about the various characters. The problem with that is only a few of the characters are actually relevant to the plot. Only McCavity, Grisabella, Old Deuteronomy, and arguably Mr. Mistopheles have any roles of real importance. McCavity is probably the best of the bunch, given his screen time is mostly dedicated to actually advancing the plot, and he has a full-on role with motivations and personality. Yeah. He's the villain, he's arrogant and sneaky, and he wants to kidnap every other performer at the ball so he can be the sole winner. Grisabella, the singer of the musical's most famous song, Memories, is the fallen hero who wants a second life to redeem herself, and, spoilers, she's the one who gets it. Old Deuteronomy is the authority figure who leads the Jellicles, and when she's kidnapped in the third act, it's shy and anxious Mr. Mistopheles, the magician, who must rescue her. Aside from that, pretty much every other character is just there. And that includes the lead character, Victoria, whose role is just to look nice and act as the audience surrogate. The fact that a lot of these unimportant characters get their own, often far too long songs describing their basic character traits is an issue all its own. But this issue is exacerbated by the fact that their horrible designs take away any of the charm that might have made that passable. Take Jenny Anydots, for example. She has a song dedicated to how she's a lazy, Gumby cat, and it's not very important to the story. But during this song, the film, I think, tries to add a bit of dark humour by showing her eating some of the cockroaches that she's trained to dance. The problem is, it's hard to find this funny when the cockroaches have the same nightmarish designs as the cats, with human faces and everything. What could maybe have been a darkly funny scene ends up just being creepy because of it. We're watching freaky cat-eared Rebel Wilson eat the very human-looking cockroaches that she's basically enslaved to dance for her. It's just weird and not pleasant to look at. Even some of the high-energy, catchy songs like the Rum Tum Tuggers song end up falling flat because the character models are just so ugly. I can see how such a character and song would be popular if it was being sung by someone in an impressive looking costume. But in this case, the sheer uncanny valley nature of this character model just makes it flat out difficult to enjoy. In fact, for the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was so distracted by the horrible character visuals that I actually had no idea what was going on. The lyrics were confusing, it was hard to listen to when taking in all the hideous surroundings, and overall it was like watching some kind of weird fever dream. Now, I should point out, the big problem with the CGI isn't that it's in and of itself bad. By all accounts, some of what they've done is impressive. It's the character design that's atrocious. If there's one thing the musical got right, it's that cats have lots and lots of fur. So much so that when you shave a cat, it doesn't look right. Cats are cute because they have round, fluffy faces with great big eyes and sweet little noses. Cats, the movie, not only keeps small human eyes and big human noses, but they take away all the roundness and fluffiness of cat faces until we're just left with the human head with minimal fur and big cat ears. Rather than watching a movie about human-like cats, we're watching a movie about cat-like humans. And if anything, they're sphinx cat-like humans, given how thin their fur is and their bodies are so visible. If they'd just given them rounder faces and little cat noses like those nuns from Doctor Who, or just gone whole hog and made them actual cats standing on their hind legs, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. I'd say it would have been possible to come up with designs appealing enough to actually make the characters charming and likeable, to the point where their complete redundancy to the plot wouldn't have been such an issue. So, if that's what went wrong, how would I put it right? Well, for starters, I would have just made the whole thing animated. In the UK, at least, Cats was rated a U, thus was deemed appropriate for a child audience, in spite of the very strange sexual nature of the performances. So, I really don't see why they couldn't have just made it a kid-friendly cartoon focused on the visuals and the fun songs to sing along to. Not only could this have helped the character design, given they could have simply just made them look like actual cats that happen to walk on two legs, it could have added a lot more to the overall setting and aesthetic. Looking back, I think the only musical number that actually took advantage of the fact that it was being performed on screen rather than on stage was the Railway Cat song, which actually showed wide shots of the city and the characters as they danced on the railway tracks. The rest of the songs are mostly just performed in narrow, tight, not very interesting areas, as though they were desperate to match the stage show's limited space. Making the whole thing animated would actually allow for more impressive sets that they could get away with strange and psychedelic visuals with. But what about the story? Well, I personally would have made Mr. Mistopheles the lead character. As I've said, Victoria is purely an audience surrogate and has little personality outside of being kind of nice. Mr. Mistopheles has at least the relatable character traits of being nice, but also being very shy and anxious. This would not only give him a motivation for wanting to start a new life as a more confident cat, but it would still give him a reason for the other cats introducing themselves through song, as he could have been too shy to approach them before. On top of that, Mr. Mistopheles is an actual foil to McCavity. Having the hero be nervous and not so great at magic, while the villain is arrogant and an expert in magic, would make a lot more sense, and give them a basic dynamic. I mean, you could have had a scene where McCavity tries to coax him into becoming his evil magic prodigy, but then Grisabella shows up to stop it because she went through the same thing and wants to protect others from suffering the same fate as she did, giving them more of a connection. Then imagine if the ending had him rescue old Deuteronomy, and then she offers to make him the Jellicle choice, only for him to refuse and give Grisabella the chance to perform instead. This would not only see him selflessly repaying her for saving him, but it could show that he's grown as a character and is happy being himself now. While some might complain that this is too different from the stage show, well, that's kind of the point. No one wants to see a movie that's just the stage show, but much uglier. If you're going to do a movie adaptation of, well, anything, you need to justify that. What are we getting out of this that we wouldn't get out of the original? And if the only answer you can give is nightmares, then that really isn't enough. To me, terrible movies are more than just something to throw scorn at. Often, the worst of the worst movies can actually teach us valuable lessons when it comes to creating stories. Cats provides us with an important message. It doesn't matter how good your cast is or how fun your songs are. People are not going to appreciate any of it when you dress it up in the world's most hideous outfit. And above all, if you're going to spend so much money on a special effects team, make sure they at least have one good character designer. And that, my friends, is precisely what went wrong.